Chapter 15. The Death of King Ragnar. Now we take up the story where Ragnar was staying at home in his kingdom, and he did not know where his sons were, nor Randalin, his wife. And he heard every one of his men say that no one was the equal of his sons, and it occurred to him that no one was as famous as they. Now he thought about how he might seek for fame that would be no less fleeting. He thought of a plan and got himself shipwrights and had timber felled for 2 great ships. The people saw that they were 2 transports so large that none like them had been made in the Northlands, and along with them he ordered a great store of weapons from all his kingdom. From these events, people found out that he meant to go on some war expedition of his own away from his lands. The news was heard widely in those countries that were nearest. Now men and all the kings who ruled those lands feared that they might not be able to stay in their lands or kingdoms. Every one of them had a watch set on his land. On one occasion, Randalin asked Ragnar what journey he was planning for himself. He told her that he intended to go to England, and to have no more ships than the 2 transports and the men that would fit in them. Randalin said, "This journey which you're proposing seems careless to me. I would think it advisable for you to have more ships and smaller ones." "There's no glory in that," he said. "If men should conquer a land with many ships. But there are no old tales about how a land such as England was won with 2 ships. And if I am defeated, then the fewer ships I have taken away from my land, the better." Randalin answered, "It seems no less expensive to me, instead of building these ships, for you to have many long ships for this journey. But you know that it is bad for ships to sail for England. If it happens that your ship is wrecked, even if the men manage to come to land, they will have to surrender straight away, if the lord of the land comes there, and it's better to steer long ships into harbour than transports." But now Ragnar spoke a verse. "Let no man spare the Rhine's amber, if he wants seasoned warriors, if harmful for the helm-wise to hold rings rather than troops. It's hard to defend the fortress gates with flame-red golden treasures. Many kings have lost their lives, though their riches live on after." He had his ships loaded and got himself a host of men, so that the transports were fully loaded. Now his intentions were clear, and then he spoke a verse. "What does the ring-breaker hear come from the rocks howling, that the flinger of hand fire must forsake his fleet sea serpents? Yet I, who freely scatter all the forearms layings, shall bear with this plan bravely, brooch bill, if the gods will." When his ships were made ready, along with the host that should go with him, and then when a wind came that seemed favourable, Ragnar said that he had to go to the ships. And when he was ready, he led her to the ships. Before they parted, she said that she would reward him for the shirt which he had given to her. He asked how she would do it. Randalin spoke this verse. "Stitched and seamed nowhere, this long shirt I give you. Out of hoar-grey hair strands, with a high heart I wove it. No wound will be bloody, nor will weapons bite you, if you have this hallowed tunic, made holy by the gods." Ragnar said he would accept this advice, and when they parted it was clear that she was deeply moved by their parting. Now Ragnar steered his ships to England as he had planned. He encountered rough weather, so that he wrecked both of his ships on the coast of England, but all his forces came to land, and they held on to their clothing and weapons. And where he came upon villages and towns and castles, he took them. The king who ruled over England was named Aela. He had received news that Ragnar had left his own country. He had set men to keep watch, so that he might know immediately if the host attacked his land. Now men went to meet with King Aila and tell him the news of war. He had a summons sent throughout all his kingdom and called on every man who could wield a shield and ride a horse and who dared to fight to come to him. He got together such a great host that it was a wonder. King Aila prepared himself for battle. Then he said to his men, "If we gain the victory in this battle, and if you become aware that Ragnar has come, then you must not raise a weapon against him, because he has left sons behind who will never leave us alone if he falls." Ragnar now prepared himself for battle. He had the shirt that Randolin had given him at their parting, worn over his mail coat, and he had in his hand the spear with which he had vanquished a serpent which lay around Thor's hall, which no one else had dared. He had no other protection except for a helm. And where they met, the battle began. Ragnar had much smaller forces. The battle had not gone on long before many of Ragnar's men fell, but wherever he went, the host fell back before him. He broke through the ranks that day, and wherever he hewed or struck shields, mail, or helms, his blows were so strong that no one withstood them. But he was never struck or shot. Not one weapon did him harm, and he never received a wound, but he killed a great many of King Aila's men. Yet the battle ended in this way. All of Ragnar's forces were killed, and he was pressed down with shields, and so taken prisoner. Now he was asked who he was, but he was silent and didn't answer. Then King Aila said, "This man must be put through a greater trial. If he will not tell us who he is, I will cast him in an enclosure of serpents and let him sit there for a very long time. If he says anything by which we may discern that he is Ragnar, he will be taken out as fast as possible." This was done to him straight away. He sat there for a very long time, such that the snakes never fastened themselves onto him. The men said, "This man is mighty. No weapons bit him all day, and now none of the snakes will hurt him." King Aila said that he had to be stripped of the clothes that he had outermost, and it was done, and the snakes hung on to him with all their might. Then Ragnar said, "The piglets would grunt now if they knew what the old pig suffers." And though he spoke in this way, they didn't clearly realize that it was Ragnar rather than another king. Now he spoke a verse. "I have fought against foes in 51 battles in all, which seemed a splendid feat. I did scathe to many men. I never imagined a snake for the ending of my life. Many things may happen which men themselves expect least." And he spoke again. "The piglets would protest loudly if the boar's plight they knew. Death has been dealt to me. Snakes dig in my flesh house and savagely stab me. Serpents suck my life out. Beside the beasts I'll die now. Soon I will be a corpse." Then he laid down his life, and he was carried out of there. King Aila realized that Ragnar had died. Now he thought about himself, how he should take precautions or manage affairs so that he might hold on to his kingdom, or find out how it would affect Ragnar's sons when they heard it. He hit upon a plan. He had a ship readied and got a man to carry out his plan who was both wise and hardy, and he got men so that the ship was well crewed. He said that he wanted to send them to meet Ivar and the brothers and tell them of the fall of their father. But the trip seemed most unlikely to succeed, so that few wanted to go. Then the king said, "On this mission you must carefully observe how each of the brothers react to this news. Set your course as soon as you get fair winds." He had provided for their journey so that they needed nothing else, and now they left, and their journey went well. The sons of Ragnar had raided in the southern realms. Then they turned back to the Northlands and intended to visit the kingdoms that Ragnar ruled. But they didn't know how his war journey had gone, though they were very curious about how it had turned out. They came up from the southern lands. Everywhere that men heard that the brothers were coming, they feared for their towns and fled, carrying their wealth away, so that the brothers' forces hardly got any food. One morning, Bjorn Ironside awoke and spoke a verse. Here flies each fair morning over their fortresses the hale hawk of the slain. He'll die hungry without luck. He should go south o'er sands where sore wounds we have made, drink the gore of dead men, dew that wells from axe cuts. And he also said, when we received in the realm of the Roman kingdom, I first took up Frey's game, where fights were well matched. Then I showed my sword, eagles screamed over corpses for the murderous manscave of the grey moustached ones.